The story of Dragon Ball Z is, honestly, a tale of epic battles. It's a story of heroes who push past their limits, fighting to protect the ones they love and their home, planet Earth. One of the most famous parts of this story is the journey to planet Namek. After a devastating battle against the Saiyan warriors Vegeta and Nappa, the heroes of Earth are left broken. Their friends are gone. The Dragon Balls of Earth have turned to stone, but hope is not lost. They learn of another set of Dragon Balls on a distant world called Namek. This is the home planet of Piccolo and Kami. A small group of heroes decides to travel across the galaxy, hoping to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to wish their fallen friends back to life. This journey is filled with danger. Vegeta, the proud prince of all Saiyans, also learns about the Namekian Dragon Balls. He wants to use them to wish for eternal life. With immortality, he believes he can defeat his powerful boss, Frieza, and rule the universe himself. In the original story, Vegeta travels to Namek alone. He is a cunning and ruthless warrior, fighting against Frieza's forces and the heroes from Earth. But what if the story was different? What if Vegeta was not alone? Imagine a world where his large, destructive partner Nappa survived their battle on Earth. This single change would create a new path for everyone involved. The entire adventure on Namek would be transformed in ways no one could predict. Let's explore this new timeline. On Earth, Nappa was defeated by Goku's powerful Kaioken attack. Paralyzed and helpless, he was executed by Vegeta for his failure. But in this alternate reality, Vegeta sees a different kind of value. Maybe he sees the benefit of having a loyal, powerful soldier by his side for the upcoming war against Frieza. Instead of killing Nappa, Vegeta uses the last of their resources to heal him. He waits for Nappa to recover before they both retreat from Earth. Nappa is humbled by his defeat and is also grateful to Vegeta for sparing his life. This act creates a new, more complex bond between the two remaining Saiyans. Their shared goal is now the Dragon Balls of Namek, and their shared enemy is the tyrant Frieza. With Nappa at his side, Vegeta's plans for Namek become bolder. He now has a partner who can help him fight Frieza's soldiers. Nappa is not as smart as Vegeta, but his raw power is immense. He can create chaos and destruction, which is a perfect distraction. This allows Vegeta to move more strategically. The two Saiyans would arrive on Namek as a formidable team. Their presence would immediately change the balance of power on the planet. Frieza would have to deal with two powerful Saiyan warriors instead of one. The heroes from Earth would also face a much greater threat. The fight for the Dragon Balls would become a more desperate and chaotic struggle from the very beginning. The fate of Namek and the universe now rests on this unlikely partnership. The journey from Earth to planet Namek is a long one. For Vegeta and Nappa, it's a time of healing and planning. Inside their small, spherical attack pods, they travel through the dark void of space. Vegeta is thinking, replaying the battle on Earth in his mind. He remembers Goku's surprising strength, the power of the Kaioken and the Spirit Bomb. He knows that the Earthlings are not to be underestimated. He also knows that Frieza is a monster of unimaginable power. Having Nappa with him is a calculated risk. Nappa is strong, but honestly, he's also loud and reckless. He could be a useful weapon, or he could be a liability that gets them both killed. Vegeta must find a way to control him. Nappa, on the other hand, is dealing with his own feelings. He's never been defeated so completely before. Goku's power was beyond anything he had ever seen. The experience has shaken him. He's also confused by Vegeta's mercy. Saiyan pride usually demands that the weak be eliminated, yet Vegeta saved him. This makes Nappa feel a strange sense of loyalty. He owes Vegeta his life. He decides that he will follow Vegeta's lead without question. He will prove that he is not weak. He will crush anyone who stands in their way. He wants to repay Vegeta for this second chance. He dreams of the power they will gain with the Dragon Balls. He imagines a new Saiyan Empire, with Vegeta as its king and himself as its greatest general. During their trip, Vegeta would teach Nappa about the importance of strategy. He would explain that Frieza is not an enemy they can defeat with brute force alone. They need to be clever. They need to be patient. They must gather the Dragon Balls before Frieza even knows they are there. Vegeta would tell Nappa to control his temper. He would warn him not to underestimate any opponent, no matter how weak they seem. Remember the Earthlings, Nappa, Vegeta would say. Their power levels were low, but they fought with skill and spirit. That is a lesson we must not forget. Nappa would listen carefully. He respects Vegeta's intelligence. He knows that Vegeta's plans are their best hope for survival and victory. This period of travel solidifies their new relationship. It's no longer just a prince and his subordinate. It is a partnership born from shared defeat and a common goal. They are the last of the proud Saiyan warriors, or so they believe. They are rebels fighting against the tyrant who destroyed their home planet. This shared purpose makes them stronger. When they finally arrive on Namek, they're not just two individual fighters. They are a team ready to face whatever dangers await them. Their arrival marks the beginning of a new, more explosive chapter in the battle for the Dragon Balls. The quiet green fields of Namek are about to be shaken by the combined might of two furious Saiyans. The relationship between Vegeta and Nappa has always been defined by the strict Saiyan hierarchy. Vegeta is the prince, a member of the elite class. Nappa is his subordinate, a powerful warrior but still of a lower rank. On Earth, Vegeta treated Nappa as a disposable tool. He showed little concern for Nappa's well-being, and ultimately discarded him when he was no longer useful. However, surviving their defeat together changes everything. They are now two of the last known Saiyans in the universe. This shared experience creates a new foundation for their relationship. It is no longer just about rank, it's about survival. They need each other to stand against the overwhelming power of Frieza and his entire empire. On Namek, this new dynamic would be tested immediately. Vegeta would still be the leader. His sharp mind and strategic thinking are essential for their success. He would be the one to make the plans, decide where to go, and who to fight. But he would rely on Nappa's strength more than ever before. Nappa would become his heavy artillery. When a village of Namekians needs to be intimidated, Nappa's imposing figure and destructive power are the perfect tools. When Frieza's soldiers attack, Nappa can hold them off while Vegeta searches for a hidden Dragon Ball. This teamwork makes them incredibly efficient. They're able to move faster and hit harder than Vegeta could alone. However, their old habits would not disappear completely. There would still be moments of tension. Vegeta's pride and arrogance would still cause him to insult Nappa. He would mock Nappa for his lack of intelligence or his reckless behavior. Nappa, in turn, might grow frustrated with Vegeta's constant commands and complex plans. He's a warrior who prefers simple, direct action. There could be arguments and disagreements. But unlike before, these conflicts would not break their alliance. Their shared goal is just too important. They both know that fighting each other would be a death sentence. They would have to learn to put their differences aside and trust each other in the heat of battle. This partnership could also lead to a strange form of rivalry. As they fight and survive on Namek, both Saiyans would grow stronger. The Zenkai ability, which greatly increases a Saiyan's power after they recover from near-death injuries, would affect them both. Vegeta would watch Nappa's power level rise. He would be pleased to have a stronger ally, but his pride would also push him to stay ahead. He would train harder and fight more fiercely to ensure that he remains the superior warrior. Nappa, inspired by Vegeta's strength and his own growing power, would also push himself to new limits. This friendly competition would make them both more formidable, turning them into an even greater threat to Frieza. Nappa's personality is simple and direct. He's a creature of immense power and destructive impulses. He enjoys fighting. He just loves to cause chaos and watch things explode. On Earth, he treated the battle like a game, toying with the Z-fighters and enjoying their fear and desperation. On Namek, he would be no different. The planet's peaceful environment and gentle inhabitants would mean nothing to him. He would see the green hills and calm waters as just another playground to demolish. His first instinct upon arriving would be to test his strength. He might fire a massive energy blast into a mountain just to see the explosion. This reckless behavior would be a constant source of frustration for Vegeta. Vegeta's plan relies on stealth and surprise. He wants to gather the Dragon Balls before Frieza can react. Nappa's loud and destructive nature is the exact opposite of this strategy. Every time Nappa blows up a piece of the landscape, he's sending a signal to Frieza's forces, basically telling them exactly where the Saiyans are. Vegeta would have to constantly restrain Nappa. He would need to remind him to be quiet and to follow the plan. "Patience, Nappa!" Vegeta would shout. "Do you want Frieza's entire army to find us? Save your fireworks for when we actually need them." This conflict between Vegeta's cunning and Nappa's brute force would define their early days on Namek. When they encountered the Namekians, Nappa's brutality would be on full display. He wouldn't bother with threats or negotiations. He would simply land in a village and demand the Dragon Ball. If the Namekians refused, he would not hesitate to use force. He would likely destroy their homes and threaten their lives without a second thought. This approach is very different from Vegeta's methods in the original story. Vegeta was also ruthless, but he was more surgical in his cruelty. Nappa is a blunt instrument. His actions would spread terror across Namek even faster. The surviving Namekians would speak of two Saiyan devils, one cunning and cruel, the other a mindless monster of destruction. This destructive personality would also be a major factor when they face Frieza's soldiers. When Kawi or Dodoria arrived to challenge them, Nappa would be overjoyed. He would see it as a chance to finally unleash his full power. He would eagerly jump into battle, his laughter echoing across the battlefield. This could be both a good and a bad thing. His enthusiasm could catch their opponents off guard, but his lack of tactics could also get him into trouble. He might rush into a fight without thinking, falling into a trap or underestimating an opponent's special abilities. Vegeta would have to act as both a commander and a babysitter, directing Nappa's power while trying to keep his own foolishness from getting them killed. The presence of Nappa on Namek would dramatically alter the early encounters with Frieza's forces. In the original story, Vegeta had to rely on stealth and cunning to defeat his old rivals, Kui and Dodoria. He had to pick his moments carefully, using surprise attacks and his knowledge of their weaknesses to win. But, with Nappa by his side, the dynamic changes from a stealth mission to a full-on assault. When Kui confronts Vegeta, he expects a one-on-one fight. He would be completely unprepared for Nappa to suddenly appear and attack him from the side. The two Saiyans could easily overwhelm Kui, ending the fight quickly and decisively. This first victory would be a huge boost to their confidence. The confrontation with Dodoria would be even more different. Originally, Vegeta ambushed Dodoria after he had finished slaughtering a group of Namekians. But with Nappa there, they might choose to intervene directly. Imagine Dodoria chasing after Gohan and Krillin, only to be intercepted by both Vegeta and Nappa. Dodoria, arrogant and overconfident, would likely underestimate them. He would be shocked by their combined power. While Vegeta engages him in a high-speed battle, Nappa could use his wide-area energy attacks to limit Dodoria's movement. This two-pronged attack would put Dodoria on the defensive immediately. He would not have the chance to use his full power before being defeated by the Saiyan duo. This series of quick victories would have a major impact on Frieza's plans. Frieza would lose two of his top lieutenants much faster than he expected. He would become suspicious and angry. He would realize that Vegeta is not acting alone. The reports from his scouters would show two large power levels moving together. This would force Frieza to take the threat more seriously from the start. He might decide to call in the Ginyu Force much earlier than he did in the original timeline. The arrival of Frieza's elite warriors would escalate the conflict on Namek, turning the planet into a war zone much sooner. The small skirmishes for the Dragon Balls would quickly become a desperate battle for survival. Furthermore, the heroes from Earth, Gohan, Krillin, and Bulma, would face a far more terrifying situation. They are already hiding from one powerful Saiyan. Now they have to avoid two. They would hear the sounds of Nappa's destructive rampages from miles away. They would see the smoke rising from the villages he and Vegeta attack. Their mission to find the Dragon Balls would become 10 times harder. They would have to be even more careful and clever to avoid being detected. The constant threat of two powerful Saiyans working together would create a much greater sense of fear and urgency for our heroes. They would know that if they are caught, they stand absolutely no chance. The arrival of the Ginyu Force is a turning point in the Namek saga. They are Frieza's most powerful and elite team of warriors. In the original story, Vegeta is forced into a temporary and desperate alliance with Gohan and Krillin to face them. He knows he cannot defeat them alone. However, with Nappa at his side, Vegeta's attitude would be completely different. He would be far more confident, maybe even a bit arrogant. He would see the Ginyu Force not as an insurmountable obstacle, but as a glorious challenge. "Look, Nappa," he might say with a smirk. "Frieza sent his dancing clowns to entertain us. Let's give them a performance they'll never forget." The initial confrontation would be, well, explosive. The Ginyu Force would arrive with their ridiculous poses and over-the-top confidence. They would be surprised to see two Saiyans waiting for them. Captain Ginyu would likely follow his usual procedure, deciding the matchups with a game of rock, paper, scissors. This would lead to a series of intense 2-on-2 or 1-on-1 battles across the Namekian landscape. For example, Nappa might be pitted against Rikum. This would be a battle of two giants. Both are incredibly strong and durable, and both love to cause destruction. Their fight would level mountains and shake the very foundations of the planet. It would be a true clash of titans. Meanwhile, Vegeta would likely face off against Jeice or Berter. His speed and skill would be put to the test against their combination attacks. But with both Saiyans having received Zenkai boosts from their earlier fights, they would be stronger than Vegeta was at this point in the original story. They might actually be able to hold their own against the Ginyu Force. Nappa, despite his lack of technique, could potentially defeat Rikum through sheer brute force and endurance. Vegeta, using his improved power and tactical mind, could outsmart and overcome his opponents. They might even be able to defeat most of the Ginyu Force without any help from Gohan and Krillin. However, the final challenge would be Captain Ginyu himself. Ginyu is not just strong, he is extremely clever. His unique body change technique is a dangerous wild card. Seeing his teammates defeated, Ginyu would become serious. He would recognize the threat the two Saiyans pose. He might try to trick Nappa into a vulnerable position to steal his powerful body. Or he might target Vegeta, recognizing him as the bigger threat. The fight against Ginyu would be a battle of wits as much as a battle of strength. Vegeta would have to warn Nappa about Ginyu's strange ability, and they would have to work together perfectly to avoid falling into his trap. Their teamwork would be tested like never before. While Vegeta and Nappa are busy fighting the Ginyu Force, the heroes from Earth would have a different experience. With the two Saiyans occupied, Gohan and Krillin would have more freedom to move around the planet. They might succeed in finding the Namekian Elder, Guru, and unlocking their hidden potential much earlier. This would make them significantly stronger. They would also have more time to strategize and plan their next move. They would be watching the battles from a distance, trying to decide when and how to act. They are still afraid of the Saiyans, but they also recognize that the Ginyu Force is a common enemy. The moment of truth would come when Nappa encounters Gohan and Krillin again. This would be a powerful and emotional confrontation. The last time they met, Nappa easily defeated them and killed their friends. Now things are different. Gohan and Krillin are stronger thanks to Guru. Nappa would likely laugh when he sees them. He would remember them as weak and pathetic. Well, look what we have here, he would boom. It's the little bald one and the crybaby. Did you come all this way just to be beaten again? He would not take them seriously. This arrogance would be his biggest mistake. The fight would begin, and Nappa would be shocked. Krillin, using his new power and his deadly Destructo Disc, would be a much more dangerous opponent. Gohan, filled with rage at the memory of what Nappa did to Piccolo and his other friends, would unleash a powerful Masenko Blast. Nappa would be forced to defend himself seriously. He would be confused and angry. How did these weaklings get so strong? The fight would be intense. Nappa is still incredibly powerful, but Gohan and Krillin's teamwork and new strength would allow them to hold their own. They would fight with a desperation and courage that Nappa has never seen from them before. This battle would be a crucial moment for Nappa's character. For the first time, he is facing the consequences of his past actions. He is being challenged by the very people he once terrorized. He might even feel a flicker of respect for their fighting spirit. It would also be a test for Gohan. He has to overcome his fear and face the monster who haunted his nightmares. This rematch is not just about power levels. It is about courage, redemption, and growth. The outcome of this fight would depend on who has grown more since their last encounter, the Saiyan warrior who was given a second chance, or the young boy who is fighting to protect his friends and honor the fallen. Just as the battles on Namek reached their most desperate point, Son Goku would arrive. His training under 100 times Earth's gravity has made him unbelievably powerful. In the original story, he arrived just in time to save Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta from the Ginyu Force. He defeated them with ease, showcasing a level of power that no one had ever seen before. In this new timeline, the situation he arrives in would be slightly different. The Ginyu Force might already be defeated, or perhaps one final member, like Captain Ginyu, is still causing trouble. The main threat would still be Vegeta and Nappa. Goku's first meeting with Nappa on Namek would be tense. Nappa would be completely stunned by Goku's new power level. He would remember being effortlessly paralyzed by Goku's Kaioken on Earth. The fear from that defeat would still be fresh in his mind. He would see Goku not just as Kakarot, the low-class traitor, but as a terrifying force of nature. "It's him! Kakarot!" Nappa would stammer, his usual bravado gone. "Vegeta, his power! It's enormous! It's even greater than before!" This fear would make Nappa hesitate, a feeling he is not used to. Goku, as always, would try to be merciful. He would see that Nappa and Vegeta are fighting Frieza, a common enemy. He might even offer them a chance to walk away. "Vegeta, Nappa, this has to stop," Goku would say. "Frieza is the real enemy here. Let's stop fighting each other. Leave Namek and don't cause any more trouble." Vegeta, consumed by his pride and his rivalry with Goku, would refuse. He would be furious that Kakarot has once again surpassed him. He would see it as an unforgivable insult. He would demand a rematch, determined to prove that he is the strongest Saiyan. Nappa would be caught in the middle. On one hand, he is loyal to Vegeta. He owes him his life. On the other hand, he is terrified of Goku. He knows that fighting Goku is likely a death sentence. This would create a major internal conflict for Nappa. Would he blindly follow his prince into a battle they cannot win? Or would his survival instinct take over? He might try to reason with Vegeta, telling him that they should retreat and fight another day. This could lead to a dramatic moment where Vegeta, enraged by Nappa's cowardice, turns on him. Or Nappa might decide that his loyalty to Vegeta is more important than his own life, and he would stand and fight alongside his prince, ready to face his doom. The final battle against Frieza would be the ultimate test for this new alliance. With Nappa still in the picture, the dynamics of this legendary fight would be completely transformed. When Frieza reveals his monstrous final form, the despair that fell upon the heroes would be shared by one more warrior. Nappa would be paralyzed by fear. Frieza's power is on a level he cannot even comprehend. He, who once saw himself as an elite warrior, would feel like an insect before the mighty tyrant. He would finally understand the terror that their own victims felt. This experience could be deeply humbling for him, shattering his lifelong arrogance. During the fight, Nappa's role would be limited, but potentially crucial. He would be no match for Frieza in a direct confrontation. A single death beam from Frieza could end his life instantly. However, he could still contribute. He could provide distractions, firing massive energy blasts to draw Frieza's attention for a precious second. This could give Goku or Vegeta an opening to attack. He could also play a defensive role, perhaps using his large body to shield Gohan or Krillin from an area of effect attack. Every small action could change the course of the battle. His presence means there is one more target for Frieza, and one more ally for the heroes. The legendary moment when Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan would be even more impactful with Nappa as a witness. After Frieza kills Krillin, Goku's rage would explode, turning him into the golden-haired warrior of legend. Vegeta would be in a state of shock and awe. Nappa would be utterly speechless. The legend that they had heard about their entire lives, the one thing Frieza feared most, was real. And it was Kakarot, the low-class clown, who had achieved it. This revelation would completely destroy Nappa's understanding of the world. It would prove that power is not determined by birth or rank, but by spirit and will. In the end, Nappa's survival would depend on Goku's mercy. After defeating Frieza, Goku would have to decide what to do with the remaining Saiyans. He might include Nappa in the wish to transport everyone off the dying planet Namek. If Nappa survives, his future would be uncertain. He would be a warrior without a master and without a purpose. He would have to live in a world where Kakarot is the strongest. Perhaps this humbling experience would change him. He might find a new path, or he might remain a destructive force, forever a relic of a bygone era. The presence of Nappa on Namek would not just change the battles, it would change the very soul of the characters, creating a new and fascinating chapter in the Dragon Ball saga.